guest, I'm your host, not your guest, Anita Marks. Welcome into this Wednesday edition of Bet. We've got a great show lined up for you. I feel like I say that each and every time we do Bet, but that's because we do. Bobby Marks is going to be joining us. We are less than 24 hours away from the NBA draft. A lot of excitement, especially for the Spurs, who have the #1 overall pick. And of course, we'll dive into that. We also have Eric Moody, who's going to be joining us. We'll talk some NFL. Never too soon, right? There's never a day you don't want to talk about NFL futures, especially with Eric Moody. So that will be coming your way as well. But again, getting you ready for the big night tomorrow night, the NBA draft. Let's take a look at the exciting Victor Webanyama, as we like to call him, Wemby. Just makes it easier for us in the business. But look at this. I mean, welcome to the NBA, baby. Led the LNB Pro A in points, rebounds, blocks. It will be the second tallest player selected. First overall in the NBA. He stands at 6'7", Keep in mind, Yao Ming was 7'6", and he was a top pick in 2002. And of course, which probably was the most impressive, the fact that he averaged 36, if not more points in 2 exhibition games in the G League, the G League Ignite in October. All right, we welcome into Bet Bobby Marks, and he's live there, center stage, getting ready for the NBA draft. This is awesome. We're so excited to have you on Bet. Let's talk about the Spurs, right? Like, boy, were the basketball gods shining down on them when those ping pong balls were floating around. You can go to DraftKings right now, and there are a lot of bets you can make with the Spurs to win. Obviously, I know that is wishful thinking and some high expectations. But what do you think about the Spurs, right? Can they get there with the numbers and Wemby in the fold? What are your expectations for the Spurs this season?
Anita, I still see them in that 25 to 30 win range here. I know certainly the expectations with Victor Wembanyama on this roster is Spurs fans are going to think play-in, or maybe can even sneak in the back end of the playoffs here. I still think it's a little bit premature. Of course, that changes maybe what happens in free agency here. So I still think there is a rebuild in San Antonio. I think there'll be some growing pains still. I'm not ready to put them in that 30 to 35 win category. I think you're still looking at probably 25, 26 wins.
Well, 35 plus wins, you could get it 2-1. 40 plus wins, you could get it 40-1. So, or 4-1, we'll see. Now, the Spurs have a lot of interesting pieces already, right? Like Keldon Johnson, just to name a few. How does their current roster right now allow them to make moves for the future to build around Wemby?
Well, it's built primarily on former first-round picks, and I think certainly with Keldon Johnson, as you mentioned, is about to start the first year of his extension that he signed last year. Fortunately for San Antonio, he's the highest paid player on that roster here, and they'll enter the offseason with projected $30 to $35 million in cap space. They've got future picks down the road. I believe they have up to 12 first-round picks. I think the big thing is going to be finding that center that can complement Victor Wembanyama, finding that point guard that can complement Victor here. They've got all the resources to go out and continue to build this roster.
So as we get closer, obviously, to the summer, it gets crazy with NBA free agency. What moves are you anticipating the Spurs to make over the summer?
Yeah, I think the first priority, certainly once we get past the draft, is figuring out what a comfort number for Trey Jones, your point guard, who started a majority of games last season. He is going to be a restricted free agent. You have a decision to make on Zach Collins, who's got a partial guarantee of his contract. As I mentioned, how can you go out and find a center to complement Victor? What's the likelihood of maybe Jakob Poeltl, last year's center before he was traded to Toronto, back in a Spurs uniform? I think that's certainly a player they could target. It might cost them significantly here, but they've got a lot of flexibility. Certainly, they can also be in that mode where they're taking back contracts and building up their draft assets, something they've done in the past.
Bobby, last one for you, and I want to throw this in because I'm really curious. Right now, you could wager that Wemby will win Rookie of the Year at like -225. you used to be a general manager, right? You used to oversee a club. Do you think the Spurs are going to take it slow, nice and easy? This is a marathon, not a sprint with him? Or do you feel that there is some value there that you think he can win Rookie of the Year this season?
Oh, I think there's tremendous value for him winning Rookie of the Year. Remember, he didn't play the typical college schedule last year in France where you saw his games. He just finished about a week ago here. So I think he's prepared for the wear and tear. Certainly they're going to be cautious, whether it be, 3 games in 4 nights or if there's an extended, road trip here. But barring some type of setback here, I do think you're going to see his minutes, in that 30-plus range here and playing a considerable amount of games. And I think where the draft is, there's a lot of projects out there. There's not a lot of players ready to go right now. And I think it's probably good money where Victor is.
Fantastic. Great stuff as always. Bobby, appreciate you joining us here on Bet.
Thanks, Anita.
All right, it is time to play Get Rich Quick. Don't we all of us want to get rich quick? I think I do. Eric Moody joins us now on Bet, and this is fun. What we're going to do is we're going to talk some NFL futures and the ones that we think will cash the fastest. And today we're going to focus on the AFC. So Eric, welcome in. Give me a team in the AFC that you feel their win total is going to cash quickly.
I've got a team for you, Anita, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, when I think about Mike Tomlin, all that he does is finish, 500 or better year in and year out. You look at last year, like he delivered a 9-win season in 2022. He had a rookie quarterback in Kenny Pickett. He had a suboptimal offensive line, and he only had 10 games with defensive star T.J. Watt. And if you look at Pickett going into 2023, I'm like, he's a legitimate breakout candidate at the quarterback position. And I say this often, never underestimate the growth a player can have from one season to the next, especially a rookie. From a film perspective, he improved dramatically, in my opinion, from week 12 on. He's surrounded by playmakers. He's got Najee Harris, of course, at running back, Deontay Johnson. He's got George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth at tight end. It's also worth mentioning, Anita, that Pickett and Johnson did not have a lot of time to work together last year. Remember, Mitch Trubisky was supposed to be this team's starting quarterback, and Deontay Johnson was kind of dealing with a contract situation, so Johnson and Pickett didn't have a lot of time to work together. That'll change, obviously, going into 2023. Now, the Steelers also underwent significant changes to its offensive line last year, so they should be much better this year as a run-blocking and pass-blocking unit. Now, the Steelers, they've always been a defensive-minded team. They've got Minkah Fitzpatrick, they've got T.J. Watt. They'll be healthy, obviously, going into this upcoming season. I think that helps them tremendously. Also love the offseason additions that they made as well. So I think they'll really be an explosive unit on defense, in 2023. Now, to bring all this together, I like looking at the schedule quite a bit. Now, their schedule is a middle-of-the-road schedule, in my opinion, if you're looking at strength of schedule and kind of stack ranking their schedule. Now, I look at the Steelers. They have a fairly easy opening stretch compared to previous seasons. They start off 2 consecutive home games. They also have 4 primetime games. 3 of those are at home. 2 Thursday night football games at home. And they've got matchups against young quarterbacks. That's going to include rookies like C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Jordan Love, and whether it'll be Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, to be determined, we'll see. They do close the season out on a tough stretch. They've got 2 road games to close out the season against the Seahawks and the Ravens. But when I combine all these factors, Anita, I really like this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I know Mike Tomlin will have them ready to play, so I do believe that they'll cash rather quickly.
Yeah, I'm with you. Lockstep. Right there, Eric. They have the 11th easiest schedule heading into this season. Also, they're going to benefit from a 7-day rest advantage over their opponents. They won 7.5. Their win total was 7.5 last season. They went over that. You mentioned Kenny Pickett. I think he comes in this year seasoned, even better. And folks might not be aware of this. He was actually top 15 in passer rating this postseason, this last offseason, and the 7th lowest in turnover rate for a rookie. So just uber impressive. The chemistry between him and Pickens, I think they pick up where they left off and only get better. On top of that,
exactly.
Look at them defensively, right? T.J. Watt, he was out majority of the season with that pectoral muscle. He's coming in healthy. the duo, the combo of him and Alex Highsmith. Watch out, quarterbacks have to be really concerned. They draft Joey Porter Jr., which I think he's going to be able to contribute right away. And you look at the schedule, very interesting in looking at that schedule, Eric. The fact that they're going up against the 49ers with the first game of the season, I like them beating the 49ers in week 1 because do we even know who the quarterback is going to be for the 49ers? We don't.
Exactly.
And to me, the quarterback is the most important position in all of sport. My money is banking that it's Sam Darnold. And that doesn't move the needle for me. So don't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers pull the upset off in week 1 against the 49ers. All right, Eric, you're on the hot seat for number 2. What's your AFC team futures win total that you feel is going to pay off the quickest?
You know what? This may surprise bettors out there, but I am drawn like a moth to the flame to the Indianapolis Colts. So look at that win total, only at 6.5 wins. Now, we know they had a underwhelming 2022 season, 4-win season. I think the line was set at 10.5 prior to the start of the 2022 season, so we had expectations. Then we had Matt Ryan. He obviously did not meet expectations last year for this team. Jonathan Taylor, he was very electric in 2021. He dealt with a lot of injuries in 2022. Now we enter 2023. Now we've got Anthony Richardson, who was drafted by this Indianapolis team. We also have Gardner Minshew, so we'll see what happens there. But either way, they've got viable options at the quarterback position. Also, I would say the coaching changes are some things that I'm very, very optimistic on. You've got Shane Steichen coming in as their new head coach. He had a lot of success with the Philadelphia Eagles last year as their play caller. You look at Philadelphia, I'm like, they were a juggernaut on offense last year. They ended up ranking 3rd in total yards, 2nd in points scored per game last season. One thing about Jonathan Taylor that a lot of people forget is that, just think about, Anita, how dominant he was in 2021. I'm like, this is a guy that led the league in rushing yards and touchdowns in 2021. He's not that far removed from that. So I do believe he'll be that player once again in 2023. Now, let's talk about the offensive line. As the next offensive lineman, always got to talk about the big guys. This is a talented group, in my opinion, that underperformed in 2022. They ranked 23rd in run block win rate, 32nd in pass block win rate. Obviously some areas of opportunity. But I will tell you, Anita, I am very, very excited about the addition of new offensive line coach Tony Sparano Jr. I think he has a coaching style, and some of the changes that I've read that he's making, he's really going to tap into the potential of this group. And so the Colts, they do have talent on both sides of the ball. I do believe that their defense is good enough to be a middle-of-the-road defense, and their offense didn't give them or do them any favors last year. That'll obviously change in 2023. To bring all that together, let's talk about this schedule. So I would say you look at the AFC South. I'm like, they've got a lot of young quarterbacks in that division. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the top quarterback, so they can take advantage of that. You've got Gus Bradley in charge of the defense. I think that's a huge advantage going into this year as well, to kind of touch on the defense again. But also, they play the NFC South, which just doesn't have a ton of dominant defenses, and they also have questionable quarterback situations. And so when I look at all these different factors, new coaching staff, new quarterbacks that are there, current offensive playmakers, I do believe that this is an Indianapolis Colts team that could, I would say, surpass expectations that bettors have. So I'll leave it at that.
I'm not feeling the Colts as much as you are, just because I think that there's going to be some growing pains there at the quarterback position. Listen, I'm the biggest Gardner Minshew fan. Folks who tune into Daily Wager know that. I think there's a good chance that Gardner Minshew starts and plays possibly the first 4 or 5, maybe he plays all the way through the bye week to see where this Colts team is. Anthony Richardson obviously is the future for them at the quarterback position, but with the lack of experience, and especially playing in a pro-style offense that Anthony Richardson did not have at Florida, I think it's going to be one of those transitions to him at quarterback at some point in time in the season when the Colts say, you know what, we're out of this. We're out of this mix. So I'm just not as high on the Colts as you are, but there is a team in that division I am really high on, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars. And that's who I'm rolling with my second pick, my second play to go over their win total. I just think they're going to be extremely dominant in their division. Obviously, you've got 2 of the 3 teams are starting with potentially rookie quarterbacks, right? On top of that, you've got Trevor Lawrence coming into his second year with Doug Peterson. What a rookie. His rookie year was an absolute disaster with Urban Meyer, but boy, was he able to turn it around. And this is a Jacksonville Jaguars team, Eric, that finished the season top 10 offensively from weeks 9 through 18. Second in the NFL in completion percentage, as well as passer rating. He had 15 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. And then now he's coming into this season with Calvin Ridley added to that mix, with Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Ingram at tight end, ATN, the way that he's utilized in the passing game. They've got a solid defense. Yes, concerned with the offensive line because of the suspension with Cam Robinson, but this is a Jags team. They went 7-2 their last 9 games of the season, won the AFC South last year, and in Week 18, of course, beat Tennessee to seal the deal. And looking at their schedule, they take care of the Colts twice, the Texans, the Falcons in their first 6 games. So for me, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars in this division. What say you, Eric? What are your thoughts about my Jaguars play?
No, I do like the Jaguars. You saw how Trevor Lawrence, really elevated his game last year. And one thing that I admire about that coaching staff, Anita, is that, they really try to position him for success with the players that they've surrounded him with. And to your point, you've got Calvin Ridley that's coming in, but they're obviously the team to beat in their division. And I would just say the only downside is just given their tougher schedule. Their schedule is a lot tougher than obviously it was last year. But I do like what you're cooking. I do like what you're selling because I am a big Trevor Lawrence guy. So I do like that team. I grew up watching them when I grew up in Alabama. So that was one of the pro teams that were near us. So I've watched a ton of Jaguars games, we'll say, with Mark Brunell. But, I digress. I'll stay on point.
Wow, you're really showing your age there, Eric, when you bring up Mark Brunell, that's for sure. I was living in Jacksonville when Mark Brunell was quarterbacking. And by the way, Tom Coughlin was the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes.
Eric, always great having you here on Bet. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
You got it. All right, we always like to leave you with before I let you go, and today it is par 3, baby, getting you ready for the Travelers Championship, which is taking place just a few miles north of me in Connecticut. So listen, this course in this tournament is all about precision and not power. Who do I like? Denny McCarthy. I'm going to play him always, baby, to win top 5, top 10, top 20. Top 10 in the Wells Fargo as well as the Memorial, top 20 at the U.S. Open. And he even finished in the top 20 even with his putter being a little off. He's ranked 4th on tour this season in strokes gained putting. He thrives on shorter courses in the Northeast, so this course fits him to a T. Another guy that I like, Russell Henley. I'm going to play him to finish in the top 5, top 10, top 20. Recently, his form has just been so on point. 4 top 20s in his last 5 games, last 5 tournaments, I should say. Also, he is a master when it comes to Pete Dye design courses, and that's exactly what this is. And last but not least, got to give some love to Tommy Fleetwood. Dude shot a 63 on the final round of the U.S. Open, tied for 5th last week. His game is definitely on point. He is in a groove, and he is still looking to win his first PGA Tour event win here on American soil. Last but not least, he is just on point. He's so excellent from 150 to 175 yards out on approach, and that's exactly what you're going to need in your bag in order to win this week at the Travelers. So Denny McCarthy, Russell Henley, as well as Tommy Fleetwood. Those are my par 3 picks to win and of course, finish in the top 5, top 10, and top 20 as well. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to Bet today. We really appreciate it. Bobby Marks, myself, and Eric Moody will be back with you on Friday. We'll see you then.